Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Championship Check-In podcast. Sam, we have reached the managerial graveyard. That is international break 3 in November. And we have 3 jobs up for grabs literally on day 1. I don't know whether things might change as well elsewhere during the break. So we are going to focus on the 3 clubs looking for managers. I'm going to get Sam's take on what's gone wrong and what happens next. Shall we start with Southampton, being they went first? Do you want to give me a quick thought on what went wrong for Will Still, whether if he had his time again he'd do anything differently, or whether he was destined wrong bloke, wrong place, wrong time?
I'm sure he would do, a lot differently, or certain things differently. Yeah, I was surprised how quickly it unravelled. I think my memory's going to be little bit hazy, but I just think the way it snowballed the last few weeks and a few indifferent results, especially at St Mary's, and the toxicity that revealed itself after one of those recent home games, I think the position became a little bit untenable, especially when you've only had the 2 victories. And I spoke probably at length on the Sheffield United victory. I wouldn't go as far to say as it was a smash and grab, but they owed a lot of that down to a virtuoso performance from Ross Stewart, and the only other victory was the opening day against Wrexham. And I think you can see, despite 2 victories against QPR and Sheffield Wednesday, this is still not a Southampton playing particularly well. So there's a lot to sort out there.
Sam, quickly, what can we read from the fact that a manager has gone out and they've immediately won 2 games? You've been in dressing rooms. Does that tell us the players weren't having a manager, or is that too simplistic a conclusion?
I think it's probably a little bit too simplistic, but it's not a great reflection on the outgoing manager. And evidently, from that performance at QPR in particular, they were putting their bodies on the line. They defended their box. It was ugly, but my God, they were fighting for the 3 points on that occasion and for the supporters, which has obviously been a huge issue, that disconnect. And I think a lot of that, similar to Leicester, there's probably some players that have been there too long. There's probably some players that are adapting to being back in the Championship, and mentally that's a problem, I think, for the guys who are on the big money and want to be playing in the Premier League. So I think there's a bit of that. I think there's been some really poor managerial appointments over the last few years at Southampton. So, going from one style to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is a difficult job for a new manager going in to sort out. So, and the players have hugely underperformed for Will Still, but I still believe, because of his reputation, that he'll probably get another job, and he'll probably be linked to some decent vacancies.
We're about to talk about 2, Sam. You might throw his name right in there. Yeah.
So, I mean, the chap in temporary charge was I think, a club appointment. I think I said this on last week's podcast.
Was he on the staff already, Eckhart?
No, I think he was brought in. Sorry, my memory here, but he was a first-team coach at a fellow Championship club in the last few years. So he has got experience of the Championship, but I think he was a Sport Republic appointment.
Right.
So therefore, it wouldn't be on the reams of possibilities him being given the job. But I would expect an external appointment. The one that jumps out at me above others, if I can jump there.
Do you want me to just read out the favourites for you, mate?
Go on.
Next Southampton manager, favourite Tonda Eka, who you just mentioned. Gary O'Neill. Tonda Eka is odds on. And then everybody else, Gary O'Neill, Michael Carrick, Brendan Rodgers, Russ Martin. By the way, we might just be reordering those names for the next 2 segments as well. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, well, I think the Gary O'Neill one would be so difficult. 7 years at Portsmouth.
Of course, yeah.
I just don't think at this juncture that would wash. And of course, if he, and I believe he looks like a really good coach, and obviously he's had experience in the Premier League, I'm sure he would probably get a tune out of him, but I just don't think that that's a particularly good idea right now with the way that the fans feel about the players and the club. So I wouldn't be too sure on that one. Brendan Rodgers
is interesting, Sam. Can I just quickly come in, mate, on Eka? I'm just reading. It was Big Val at Barnsley.
There you go, yeah.
He was with. So, sorry, I've been perceiving this wrong. I thought he was like Alan Sheehan at Swansea, just a staffer. So it wouldn't be like just promoting a staffer, would it?
No, and I think you have to think of someone like Thomas Frank, for example, who came from pretty much nowhere to succeed Dean Smith when he went
Mm.
off to Aston Villa. And look what Thomas Frank has become in the short space of time. So, yeah, we shouldn't discount this chap. Obviously, I don't know too much about him, but considering it's someone that's been plucked from
To do the
over,
under 21s at Saints in the
yeah,
summer. Yeah.
yeah, who's been plucked from overseas to come in, obviously with that past experience of the Championship. Obviously, someone that the club felt has got good pedigree, so we shouldn't discount him. I think from that list, Brendan Rodgers is a new name to me. Would Brendan Rodgers want to go and
Can
manage
he
in the
not get a
champ?
Premier League job, Sam?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm not sure if Brendan Rodgers would want to drop to the Championship where the short term future is so unknown at Southampton. I think Michael Carrick is the one from that list, just because he's not, an ex manager. He's not going back for a second crack at it. He
Mm.
did good work in that playoff season for Middlesbrough. He's clearly a deep thinker about the game. He deserves, I believe, probably another opportunity from that work. Fresh start might do him good. I think he's the one from that list, but it's still a gamble because he's not
Mm.
been able to get Middlesbrough out of the division. And essentially, you're going into a club with probably bigger expectation and probably, well, certainly, I would imagine players on a better buck, bigger budget, more pressure, maybe
Well,
than
Sam,
Middlesbrough would have been when he took over.
what do you think the conversation's going to be? They've got 18 points, so they've pretty much, if they want to get playoffs, and I'm just throwing the premise out there. If you think it's a ridiculous premise, that's fine. Let me just throw it out there. But if they want to get playoffs, they need to sort of score high 50s or 60 points to get to around 75, 78 points. It might be fewer than that, but surely there'll be the conversation. Or rather, if you're going in for the interview and you sell them, well, I can score 55, 60 points with this squad. Is it going to be that type of thing, or do you think? I mean, I know they're in the parachute payment egg timer. It's not going to be set us up a long term plan mid-season with a championship. It is going to be right. Get up the table as fast as you can, isn't it?
Yeah, I would imagine so. And again, that wouldn't be unthinkable, would it? With
I
probably
don't
the
think so.
potential,
No.
with probably the potential to do some business in January when you think of fellows and
Isn't that exactly what Carrick did at Borough as well? They just
yeah.
zoomed straight up the table, didn't they?
Yeah, with kind of fellows as coming in towards the end of the window, they look like they had a better effect on the game at the weekend. So there'd be a potential to do that as well. Yeah, I still think they can salvage the season, and with 2 wins to add to those initial couple in the last 7 days, the players will be feeling better about things. But I don't think the performances have been particularly good. They've had the rub of the green a little bit. They were
Mm.
clinical. They took advantage of a couple of really bad Sheffield Wednesday mistakes at the weekend. So I don't think they've completely fixed everything. But yeah, going back to what we spoke of 5 minutes ago, I think it's a real positive that they're fighting for the manager.
Mm.
And again, not brilliantly reflecting on Will Still, but I still think he leaves probably with his reputation relatively still intact. Excuse the pun.
Assuming this is getting done before we're back for round 16, who would you put in, and who do you think's most likely that's going to be holding up the shirt on the website?
I don't know. Carrick, I would say.
Yeah.
Carrick, of all the jobs that are available, you see them sitting in the Match of the Day studio, and I saw him being asked a question about getting back in the other day, and you can tell. Yeah, I'm enjoying doing a
Oh,
bit of
Sam,
this.
the fact they're even in the studio
Yeah,
means they want to get back in, don't they?
yeah. Well, spending time with a family, you want to get back in and manage, and I think he's got a lot to give, and I'd be interested to see what he can do with a bit. Is it a blank
Sorry,
canvas?
Sam, can you just break the fourth wall for the viewers a bit? Because you do this every week where so a producer from TV brings you in to be a pundit. They know you're not interested in being a manager and you're going to be there. But if you're booked with so and so who's you see once every 5 years that So, like, an agent will have gone to the TV producer to say, "Can you put my guy on TV because he wants a job?" Not in those words. That's how it works in your world. Yeah.
Uh, I think it's been in the focus, isn't it? I suppose being still remaining relevant. I mean, Carrick's a massive name, so I don't think that applies to him hugely. It's just going on
Fair.
Match of the Days, um, a great gig, I'm sure, and yeah, I don't imagine you need an agent to push you into that type of thing. But I think
No.
the football league managers who get involved in the media in the short term is, yeah, it's obviously good to earn a little bit of additional money when you're out of the game, but I think it is to stay front and centre and stay relevant and people to talk
I'm
about
sure
you.
we had Michael Appleton in, and he had a job 3 days later when we were
Mm.
doing the
Well,
EFL.
they always say it. I think they say it on various channels recently. They've been saying we've had X, Y, and Z in. Monday Night Football's probably an example. We've had X,
Yeah,
Y, Z in, and then immediately they get
go
picked up with a
figure.
job. I mean, so much so. I think Gary O'Neill did Saturday Night Football the other day. A few
Interesting.
days after potentially speaking to Wolves about the vacancy. So yeah, I think part of it is just staying in people's thoughts. And everyone watches the big games, don't they? So if there's a manager out of work, they're probably irrelevant. If they're brilliant at analysis, it just puts you at the forefront of someone's mind.
Brilliant. Well, you just mentioned Gary O'Neill and Wolves, so let's talk Middlesbrough. And I mean, talk about that escalated quickly. You know, you and I spoke on Thursday, and this wasn't even a thing. And here we
Yeah.
are chatting on Monday, and Rob Edwards
Mm.
is is, is literally the Wolves manager now. This is a difficult one, isn't it? Because people like me talking about this will get accused of sitting on the fence by saying, I literally get it from both sides' point of view. I get why Steve Gibson and the Borough fans will be completely furious about, this big handsome bloke with a massive smile coming in, putting him towards the top of the table and then essentially walking out. But I also get that if he's honest about the fact that this is the one job, he would walk away and, reset like Eustace did to go from Blackburn to Derby, then I get why he would go. Ultimately, I don't want to use the word selfish, but it is sometimes in life, Sam, there is a self-serving thing that you do for yourself that's going to have a negative
Mm.
implication on somebody else and you just have to swallow it. But I
Mm.
get it from both sides. I get the Borough fans being furious, but if that's your gig, then you take the chance, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose the difference from Blackburn, the example you just made is Middlesbrough's on really solid, sound footing, whereas there's an uncertainty at Blackburn, and I think that would have
He
been
was still going right down the table, though, Eustace, wasn't he?
yeah, but that would have been hugely part of his thinking long term. It wasn't a short term decision.
Agree,
So
yeah.
I think Middlesbrough, that's why probably it stings as well. And I know that Steve Gibson has been obviously mentioned heavily in this, and that's only right because of the stability that he's brought and what have you. I said it on the radio TV at the weekend. Like there's the feeling at Middlesbrough, it's not probably akin to what's going on at Coventry, but there are similarities in that vibrant home support. All of a sudden, everyone enjoying going to games, the belief that this could be something special. So I get it for all those reasons. The flip side is, I remember reading stuff in the summer that, cool, he talks a good game, this bloke, and they hadn't won a game in pre-season, I don't think, Middlesbrough. So
Hmm.
that's how quickly football can change. Um, there is huge loyalty, obviously, from supporters, but that's where it ends. When you grow as a player and you have a huge affinity and you have a successful time, for example, my 3 years at Swindon, the length of it, yeah, only 3 years, but the success, and then me leaving and not going back in any other kind of capacity, I'll always have that huge affinity and love for that place. But that's very, very unique, I think, in football. Ordinarily, it doesn't end particularly well, or you fall out of favour. So player supporters wanting loyalty from players and managers, it's going to be a rarity. And I
Hmm.
think it's it's not right really to delve into the personal situation here because we don't know the nuts and bolts of it.
But Sam, just quickly for fans, you and I have
Yeah,
spoken to managers before, and I won't mention names, but people don't understand. Sometimes these guys literally leave their
mm,
wife, one, two,
mm,
three young children in part A of the country, move away
mm.
if it's Middlesbrough and you're right up in the
Yeah,
northeast, and see them one evening a week. They
yeah,
do, don't they? Because they're so hooked
yeah.
into their job.
Well, I think a lot of it is, yeah, probably renting. The reality is
There you go.
the club renting an apartment for you and a few of your staff members, probably. So it's kind of like, um, yeah, the lads probably long days at the training ground and then going back and staying over a few days a week if you can't commit to taking the family up with you.
But like
Um,
you get to do the school run every morning,
yeah,
so do I.
yeah,
Football managers don't get to do that, do
yeah.
they?
And I don't want to delve into this, but like
No, sorry.
no, I don't want to delve into the intricacies of his life because I don't know. But
No.
what I would say is probably Rob Edwards has maybe never, since he retired, and you look at his career path, he's maybe never had to travel really to this extent to what he's been doing. So this has probably been the
Mm.
first time that he's had to live in kind of the way we were just describing. So that comes into it. But of course, you know, he's done every job at Wolves. It would seem. I didn't know actually that he'd gone back after doing the 18s to do the 23s.
Oh,
Obviously, had a
really?
spell at the FA. So it's the one job. It's not eluded him, but it's probably the one job that he's had his eye on. Um, and you know, another ingredient is yes, they've got 2 points. They only had 6 points this time last year after 11 games. They had 3 points when all this news broke. So they're only 1 point better off last season. They were able to stay up, and he's managed in the Premier League, right? So
Mm.
you're not going to be a successful manager, or you're not going to be a manager of any ilk unless you've got that belief that you can go into Wolves and turn things around. So he'll have that trust and confidence in himself. So he won't be looking at the position and thinking they're going to be in the championship next year. He'll go in
But
and
people are
think,
going to say that, aren't they? Oh,
yeah,
they've got one eye on the championship, yeah.
of course, but he can. No, well, yeah, but I think he'll go in with full confidence that he can get a tune out of them.
Mm.
But he'll probably look for assurances that he's going to be there next year in the championship as well. But yeah, I feel
4-year contract apparently, so he will be.
I feel bad for Middlesbrough. Is there a part of they hadn't won in three, scraped the point at Leicester? Yes, they won at the weekend without him, but has there been enough there? I think the people who pore over the numbers and the statistics would say that there's been a bit of a drop off at Middlesbrough, certainly in the front players. Is there a bit of that going on? I'm not so sure. But had they been streets ahead of everyone, and I don't know, and there was a real belief that they were going to be one of those automatically promoted clubs, would that have changed his
Like when
mind?
Nathan Jones jumped to Stoke, Luton were like well top of the
Mm,
league, weren't they?
yeah, I'm not so sure that would have
Mm.
made much of a difference. Um, but but yeah, it's a surprise I think to people that don't follow it that intently. But I
Mm.
just think Wolves is, as you said, for so many ingredients, the one for Rob Edwards, and we can't be too critical, as tough as it is for the Middlesbrough fans, because family and all that has to come first and does come first and always will do.
Quickly, there's a few different names on this. Interestingly, Carlos Corberon is the favourite. Says
Mm,
the website I'm on. Gary O'Neill's there. He also played for Middlesbrough, and I know we're about to talk about Norwich as well. Tony Mowbray, of course, is gigantically popular up
mm,
there. Stephen Gerrard's name's there, and Brendan Rodgers' name's there. So a couple of different ones in Corberon, and understandably
mm.
Mowbray.
Yeah, well, Mowbray is obviously an absolute hero in those parts. Didn't go particularly well at Birmingham, if memory serves.
Well, it's the health that
Yeah,
stopped that, didn't it?
and then did Rowett come in at the end of that season?
He
Have I
did.
got me?
Well, Mark Venus took it for a while.
Yeah,
Moggers assistant, didn't he? Which really didn't
Yeah,
go well.
I love Mowbray. I think he would be a brilliant guy to play for and has been. I love the cut of his jib. I think he's a player's manager. I'm not sure that it would be the wisest choice to go back now to Middlesbrough, where he's held in such high esteem. I mean, Rodgers, yes, I think, again, for the reasons that I stated earlier, I like Brendan Rodgers. I think he's a good
That feels
coach.
more realistic than Southampton at the moment, doesn't it? Maybe.
Gerrard's reputation has taken a little bit of a jolt, but then would that be a savvy move given what's going on at Coventry with Lampard? Those two getting name checked together again, but Gerrard is
Brilliant.
someone I think that could go in and galvanise, and I think he would be welcomed. But obviously, it didn't go well for him in Saudi Arabia, and it didn't go well for him at Aston Villa. So there's a little bit of risk attached to it. I don't know the intricacies of the Gary O'Neill leaving under a cloud, black cloud, but that's
Oh,
what
neither do I. No, beg your pardon.
I've been. I think it wasn't particularly good. I'd have to be educated by the Middlesbrough fans on how he
Okay,
left. I haven't had an opportunity to read into that, but I think he didn't leave in particularly a great situation. So,
interesting.
but yeah, I mean, if Gary O'Neill wants it and Middlesbrough wants it, I don't think that would be the worst decision either. Is there anyone I've missed off? So
No,
I think there's some really good candidates there for them. So we'll wait and see. Yeah, there's definitely. Yeah, my sentiment would be Gary O'Neill to Southampton wouldn't be a great idea, but yeah, if it's all rosy with him and everyone on Teesside, then yeah, I could see that one working as well. And AD's obviously there, isn't he? I don't know what the future holds for AD Vivash.
oh, they'll be doing everything to keep him, won't they?
I would think so because yeah,
Yeah.
he was a club appointment. I think he was put to Rob Edwards because they wouldn't have worked together before. He obviously comes out of Saturday with enormous credit. They were obviously down to bare bones as well defensively. AD doing the fist pumps at full time. I don't imagine it's going to be something him following Rob to Wolves, given what I just said. So yeah, maybe AD number two to a younger manager might be a good fit.
Let's round this one out. Norwich City. I mean, everything about this seemed inevitable. Even the way they lost the game and kind of collapsed to lose 2-1 at home to Leicester. Big shame. I think when we look at Norwich compared to Southampton and Middlesbrough, I mean, they're all unique situations. Middlesbrough's very unique because they're so high in the league, and you often don't get managers going out when teams are high in the league, only in this situation where, they're essentially snaffled by another club. Southampton feels like wrong guy, wrong time, whereas Norwich, you can make the argument there's potentially other stuff wrong that needs to be fixed in terms of the sporting director there, Ben Napper, will now have sacked David Wagner, Johannes Hoff-Torp and Liam Manning. Obviously only employed two of those and, spent a lot of money, Norwich, to not to be in the bottom three, to be in the top six, you'd think. But you've kind of convinced me over the years of working with you, your losing streak theory that managers can't
Yeah.
Can't go six in a row. You can't go 8 home defeats in a row. And the way it's all kind of lined up, he was destined to go out. So I don't think there's much point talking about Manning. Hopefully he'll get back in. Do you think there are bigger issues at Norwich, or do you think if they make the right hire, someone will come in and they'll start winning?
Well, I was on Final Score with Chris Sutton at the weekend, so
What did he have to say about
we
it?
spent quite a lot of time. Yeah, he's like really well versed in it.
Does he live
I
that way still, Chris? Or
I think so. Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, we were very, very similar. Like, felt really sorry for Liam Manning. I actually said, in a way, I'm quite pleased and found it quite refreshing that they actually did stick with him for probably, on reflection, 3 or 4 more games than most clubs would have done.
right.
He could have gone a month ago, no question about it. So, listen, they don't deserve any credit for it, but I was quite pleased individually that
So you mean last international break they would have played 9 games, wouldn't
yeah,
they? So that
I
would have
think
felt really harsh, wouldn't it?
they stuck, didn't they, and tried for him to turn it around. But yeah, you cannot. And Chris knows it better than me, but I know about Ipswich, and people think that their quiet places. There's a ridiculous passion for those two clubs
Yeah, right. Yeah.
around the towns and the cities. Like, for me going from London, where I was playing for a club outside London, moving to Ipswich, it is the old Goldfish Bowl. People want to talk to you about the football, and when things don't go well, you get told. So for that reason, it had become completely untenable at Norwich for him, because that support is at such a low ebb. Understandably, one off the bottom, that is unthinkable really for Norwich in the Championship. I know they're the League One.
Sam, that's the key point, isn't it? This is not my experience, or maybe yours at QPR as well. There's kind of been years of stagnation and you get used to not winning. This has been quite quick. They've gone playoffs, mid-table, bosh, in couple of 3 seasons, having been in the Premier League. So this is hard to get your head around if you're a Norwich fan, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And listen, I've not seen them enough live this season, but when you look at the business that's been done over the summer, and then you look at the performances, maybe Makamo, who's come in from Lincoln, young lad who looks to have done okay. The credit I would give Liam Manning at the weekend, and I didn't again see the game, but Chris Garden scored obviously the goal at Sheffield Wednesday, and he put him in with Sargent from the weekend. So I thought that was a boldish move against Leicester. And I think when someone scores for you in the week and they're a striker, a front player, you have to put them in when you're in that predicament. And he did that. And obviously they went a goal up, but to capitulate, in the fashion that they did. And I think the reporter came into final score with about 10 minutes to go and said, it's one-way traffic. They're hanging on here. It feels like Leicester are going to win this game. He preempted it, and so it proved. But yeah, I think when you make that amount of change in the summer, you're inevitably going to bring yourself under pressure. This is Ben Napper. Obviously, I know about his track record, and I remember speaking about him when he was given the job. And obviously, there's been a huge overhaul there. And the reality is, it looks like Liam Manning's been dealing with a squad that's not up to it. So I think that's the sentiment of everyone. But he seems to be the one who is sticking around for the moment. So this is a massive appointment, huge appointment.
Gotta get this.
Some of these players last year, Swartau, Sienach, young lads, but they look like there was something there.
Yeah.
But it's not been enough, and too many of the signings have looked like not up to it. Look like mistakes. So yeah, obviously, I think Liam Manning hugely overachieved last year. I feel quite sorry for him that it hasn't worked out at Norwich, because I think, again, if we go down a similar line of the Rob Edwards thing, I think it was probably the dream to go back to Norwich, or maybe Ipswich, where he started his footballing journey. But Norwich is obviously, I think, where he's from. So it was an amazing opportunity for him and his staff, and it's gone hugely wrong. But I think he'll be okay. He may have to look further down. Might be a top League One club, or maybe a Championship club with a few issues. I think
he's a Championship level manager. Yeah. I know he's been terrible at Norwich, but that's my take.
Yeah, because Bristol City, in my opinion, with what he had at his disposal from Christmas till the end of the season, they should never have been in the playoffs. They did unbelievable, I think, to get into the playoffs last year. So that's the reason he was obviously nabbed by Norwich. But yeah, he'll have to rebuild a little bit in his next job. But for Norwich, huge appointment. And I suppose I'll just nip out your question here. If Gary O'Neill wants that one,
he's definitely getting a job somewhere, Gary, isn't he?
I think that one's a shoo-in. I mean, Russell Martin is another obvious
Russ is
one.
there, Carrick's there, and Daniel Farker is there. He's coming under pressure at Leeds.
Well, you can't do that, I think. I don't think he can do that. working so hard to get Leeds into the Premier League to drop into the
I
Championship.
think
now
that's
would be.
under the assumption that he may be fired by Leeds, I
Yeah,
guess. People betting on it.
any of those
Probably
chaps.
Leeds fans betting on it, Sam.
I think it's whether Gary O'Neill wants to drop to second bottom of the Championship, given that he was heavily linked with a return to Wolves last week. I don't know what. I mean, I think Russell Martin's had a good relationship with people at Norwich over the years. I don't know in the current kind of incumbents and the setup of the Norwich boardroom, footballing hierarchy,
And Sam, the big issue is
where his relationship is. But
well, and this sporting director didn't want him in the summer.
Right,
Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, and you're walking into a place that's a mess, and maybe of all the managers there that we've mentioned, he's probably the one that's the most ardent in the way he wants his teams to play. So I think that comes attached with risk if they're going to play really expansively in the plight that they're in. I think Gary O'Neill's quite versatile in what he's done so far as a manager. Carrick probably didn't have a clear identity towards the end at Middlesbrough, but I think they would probably be they would probably be managers going in where there might be a little bit more versatility rather than, we know well like Russell Martin's teams want to play, and if he gets it right, it's bloody great, but it does come with some huge risk attached.
Brilliant stuff. Sam, I know you've got a game to prep for, so let's call it there. And you get your comments down there on 3 jobs. Fingers crossed they're all going to be taken during this international break. So we can
go on then. Do you want me to give you a 3? Gary O'Neill to Norwich, because he's not scarred anywhere there. I don't think. He was a player there, wasn't he? I'll have Carrick at Southampton, and I'll have Ideal World. Ooh, sit on the fence. I don't think Brendan Rodgers would take it, would it? Well, let's have Gerrard in at Middlesbrough, eh? Give him another world.
Tremendous stuff. I mean, for the
Sorry,
likes of you
Middlesbrough
and
fans,
me,
they're the ones that are going to come from me. I can't think of anyone else for Middlesbrough right now on the spot. Give it to Adi, my mate. Adi Viavash for number 1. There you go.
Yeah. Well, get your 3 down in the comments. That might be quite a good, fun game. Try and predict all 3 new managers who are going to be coming in, hopefully, this international break. And we will speak to Sam next week. We do the next round of predictions as well. And hopefully he can react to 3 hires, and we'll see how many we get right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Don't worry, the international break will go quickly. We'll be back next week. Like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and we'll see you then.